Our guest today is a woman who turned unimaginable trauma into a gateway of deep transformation. At 19, Anne discovered her mother dead, a moment that haunted her for decades. But one unexpected breakthrough session changed everything. She takes us on a journey of emotional release, spiritual awakening, and development of an extraordinary ability using only the power of awareness. Verified physical shifts and the connection between inner truth and outer reality, and shows us what is truly possible when we go within. Anne, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm so happy. So, Anne, I want to just give our listeners a little window into what you experienced on that day, because you have had such transformation. Obviously, you're also giving back, which is amazing in the work that you do. And I would just want people to understand that if they have experienced trauma or they have experienced something in their past, that it's possible for them to move past that.
Absolutely. It's possible. Yes. But sometimes we don't realize that the trauma is affecting us. And that's what it was like for me. I had no idea. I mean, I had all these issues. I was always afraid. I had complex PTSD. I was just always trying to keep myself safe. And I was very reactionary, very jumpy and highly strung. But I didn't connect that to my childhood until I had this one event happen. And it wasn't until my late 30s. It felt very late in life. And it was these two other mothers at my boys' school. And they told me I'd done something wrong. And I could not stop my mind spinning. It just went out of control for 3 days. It just went over and over everything that had happened, like what they'd said, what I'd said, what I did, what I could have done differently. I could not stop it spinning. And it was the end of those 3 days. I suddenly realized, okay, this isn't normal. I realized this isn't normal because no one I knew anyone I knew, no one would have reacted that intently to something that really wasn't a big deal, but it was so huge for me. And I realized it felt like how I reacted when my dad would tell me I'd done something wrong. So that was the first little opening, little inkling that maybe my childhood was still affecting me. So I had to go through that in order to start searching and to be willing to change. So that was kind of the beginning of the story.
And then what unfolded after that? How did you get to the realizations that you had and this incredible ability to heal so quickly?
Well,
Because
it wasn't that quick.
exactly. I'm saying, like, now, I'm saying it was probably a really long road.
It was a long road to get to where I'm deep inside, where I can like change my skull bones and such. But it started with going to a doctor's appointment. And he happened to be a holistic physician. He was also a parent at my boys' school, so I kind of knew him. And he realized that I was way more stressed than I should be because I was a stay-at-home mother with 2 healthy young boys, right? So it should have been pretty good, but I was just so uptight. And he asked me on a scale of 0 through 10 what my stress level was, and I said 8. And then he asked me why. And it was that question that made me realize, oh, it was finding my mother dead on the bathroom floor when I was 19, because the tears from that event was still just under the surface all those years later because I had not let them out. I hadn't dealt with it. So they were still affecting me. And he used a technique that's called EFT, short for emotional freedom technique, also called tapping. Are you familiar with it?
I love tapping, but for those who don't know, can you explain what it is?
Yes, it's like an interrupt in the nervous system. So if we've been through some traumatic events or even some negative memory, right? When we think about it, we go back into that experience and our nervous system reacts in the same way. It brings up the same emotions and the same feelings. So the tapping interrupts the nervous system. And it allows some of that energy to release. So it allows those emotions to release that have been stuck inside of us. So he tapped with me about my mother's death for about 15 minutes. And I let some of those tears go. I said things out loud that I had not said in decades by telling him the story. And I walked away from that experience being able to tell the story of her death in my mind for the first time ever without those tears there. And that's when I realized that we hold those memories and those emotions in our body physically in our body and that we can let them go. So that was eye-opening for me. And I went home and I learned everything I could about EFT, because back then it was early days of EFT. Gary Craig had just introduced it and shared it with the world for free. So you could go online and you could learn, you could watch his videos and everything. And I did that. And then I wanted to try it out. I have an engineering background. I don't want to waste my time unless something works, right? I have to know something works. And I wasn't sure if this was just a fluke with the doctor. Maybe it was him. Maybe it was nothing to do with the tapping. So at the time, I had a 17-year-old cat at home and his kidneys were starting to fail. And I had to give him a daily injection of saline solution. And I hated needles. I just hated them because I'd had so many in my lifetime. Not as many as kids have today, but for then it was a lot. And I would just shake every time. Well, the first time I gave him that injection, my hand just shook so badly. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it every day. It was just too stressful. So I thought, okay, let me try out this technique. So I tapped about it and I tapped about every aspect, which is a key point of using EFT. So I tapped about my hand shaking, which was the present, right? The present moment. I tapped about my fear of hurting my cat, which was kind of the future, afraid of what could happen. And I tapped about all the memories from all the injections I had had over my lifetime. So that was the past. I tapped about all those aspects. And the next day, when I had to give him the injection, the needle just slid right in. My hand was totally calm. All that fear that had been living inside of me the day before had totally disappeared. So that's when I realized, okay, that's where I want to be. I want to be on the other side of all that fear. So that's when I started working on it. I started using it every day and things got better, but I wanted more and I wanted it faster. So I wrote down every trauma, every emotional memory from my lifetime, which was multiple sheets of paper. And I tapped through one each night for an hour to an hour and a half each night on one event, just one event each day. And over those weeks, things just started to change. My mind became quiet. I'd never experienced a quiet mind before. But, if you've never experienced it, it's really strange to experience it. It feels kind of like boredom. It's like, where have all those thoughts gone? So those are the first steps that I did.
And is that like the feeling of all those thoughts going and moving away? Is that a sense of peace?
It is.
Was it peaceful or was
It
it?
was peaceful. But I didn't know that, right?
Yeah.
To me, and I've experienced this with other people telling me, it's like they're wondering if it's boredom. Is this what boredom is? But no, it's peace. And it was at that point, actually, I realized that the thoughts that I had had in my mind, the ones I criticized myself, and judged myself and other people, they were my dad's thoughts that I had taken on as my own, or not his thoughts, but his sayings, right? Things that I heard from him. I'd taken them on as my own and I replayed them as if they were mine, but they weren't. They were his. So I didn't know that. I didn't realize that until they disappeared from my mind.
So was it the quietening of the mind that made you realize that those were your dad's thoughts or somebody else's thoughts? Or was there a realization before those thoughts even went away that you differentiated from them?
I didn't realize they were his, but I was doing a lot of tapping about him and about things he said and things that happened. He had a very, very short temper and he was an alcoholic. So there were lots of things to work through. And it was after that they disappeared. So I connected the two there.
So people who are dealing with trauma, would you recommend them doing like what you did, writing down everything and then working through them one step at a time?
Well, a lot of people need help, and that's okay. There are EFT practitioners, there are therapists, there are coaches that can work with you through these things. I just happened to be someone who wanted to do it all myself. I was not willing to be vulnerable with other people. I didn't want to tell them my deepest, darkest secrets of things that had happened, but I was willing to do it with myself. So for me, it was easy to work through the EFT, especially once I'd realized that all those memories are just energy stuck in the body. And all I have to do is allow it to be felt and to release, and then I'm free, right? Then there's freedom on the other side, just like with the cat experience. So once I had that understanding and that knowing, it became much easier for me to do. It's okay, I just need to work through this. I need to let those emotions out and then they'll be gone.
And then do you think that by you doing it yourself led you into this path and led you to the ability to have this complete awareness of self?
It did, but the EFT was really the first step. And what it does is it opens up the subconscious mind, which means that you become aware of more details. So, for example, with my mother's death, right, I would tap multiple times about it. I did after I went to the doctor, that was the first time. But then I did more times after that. And each time I did it, more details of the events came to mind, which is the opening of the subconscious mind. So as I did that more and more with all these different traumas, I became aware at a deeper level. So first I became aware of my emotions, which I hadn't been aware of before, had suppressed them all. And then I became aware of the physical sensations underneath the emotions. So for example, if we're feeling frustrated, we know we're frustrated because we're feeling tension in certain places in our body that we call that frustration. So I became aware of those sensations in my body that's called frustration. For me, it's tension in the solar plexus. So when I became aware at that level, I didn't need to tap as much. I could have tapped using something like I feel frustration in my solar plexus, and I could have talked about what the frustration was about. That would work. But I was starting to practice feeling your feelings, and I could feel where the sensations were. So I knew what my feelings were. So then I would feel them and I would focus on them and just allow them to be, not try and change them in any way. So it's the same thing as EFT is doing with words. I'm now doing it with sensations and just feeling them and allowing them to be felt. And I noticed they would dissipate. So I started doing that more and more. I would just stop, hold myself like a statue when I felt an emotion. And I would just allow myself to feel those sensations. And I would do this over and over again. So this was kind of the second step.
So for people who are listening to this now and they're thinking, feel my feelings, like how do I do how do I do that? And oh my God, the feelings are so big. I don't want to think about the feelings, let alone think about feeling the feelings.
Right. And I was totally like that at the beginning. And that's why I had to use EFT. EFT was a perfect tool when the emotions were so big, right? They were, almost overwhelming and so hard to feel. And so, right, you don't want to focus on them. You don't want to feel them. That's why the tapping works so well, because you don't really have to totally be present with them. You want to be, because that helps it go faster, but it's kind of a workaround. And as you work with EFT, it opens you up to be willing to do this deeper work. And I hadn't known what it meant either. I was actually in a group at the time, and the kind of guru in the group would say, you don't have to meditate. It's all about feeling your feelings. Well, I didn't want to meditate. I tried that. I knew EFT was more powerful than that, so I didn't do that. But I wanted to try and feel the feelings, but I didn't know what that meant either. But I was in the group at the same time as I was doing the EFT work, the tapping work. So as the weeks went by, he would say this every week. One day I thought, okay, I can sense my feelings now. So let me try and feel my feelings. What does it even mean? So I was doing the dishes one day and I had a thought that had emotion attached, right? So you have to be aware enough that you can stop a thought in mid thought and say, okay, this thought has some fear attached or whatever. And then I tried to feel it. But and it was, I think it was probably fear, and which for me would be again the solar plexus. So I tried to feel it, but it would move. I couldn't keep my focus on it. So I realized I had to hold myself.
Sorry to interrupt you, but would it move in your body? So it would be in your solar plexus area, and then would it move up to your throat? Or when you say move, I'm just trying to understand.
Right. That's a good question. It was really my focus that moved, right? I couldn't focus on that tension in my solar plexus if I was moving or if I was taking a breath. So I stopped myself when I could feel that tension, like say, imagine it's tension in your solar plexus. I would feel it with my awareness. I would focus on it. And then I would stop. I wouldn't take any more breath in. I wouldn't let any more breath out. I wouldn't move a muscle. I would just hold myself like a statue when I could focus on it. And I would keep my focus on it. And I would talk to it. I would say things like, okay, I can feel this tension right there. I can feel you right there in my solar plexus. I can feel you. It's okay. It's okay to be felt. Until I had to take a deep breath. And then I would do it again. I think the thought again and feel the feeling again. And each time it would decrease, it would let go a little bit. So imagine you're saying something, or the thought is something like, I'm afraid of making a phone call. There's fear there. You're not going to make the phone call because it's too scary to do that. So I would think the thought, feel that fear, take a deep breath, do it again, think the thought, I'm afraid of making this phone call, feel the fear, and allow it to release again. And I would do that over and over until the fear had gone, at which point it's easy to make the phone call, right? So that's what I would do. And then because I'd worked through all my childhood traumas, then I would lay on the sofa at night and I would bring collective traumas to mind. Things like 9/11 or the Loma Prieta earthquake I was in. And I would just allow myself to feel those feelings, sensations. And it's amazing what we keep in our body. It's all stored in there still, and we can access and let it go.
So, I mean, this is amazing. I think that I have a dear friend, and she's been on the show as well, actually. And we always talk about, the feelings and the experiences that come up in our lives are there to get us to heal our the original trauma that keeps repeating itself. So I'm wondering, when you were feeling these feelings, did a memory arise of the first time you had that emotion, or did you really just sit with feeling the feeling?
I'd sit with feeling the feeling, but often a memory would pop up, right? Especially when I was doing the EFT. I would ask myself, when's the first time I remember feeling this way? And a memory would pop up. With the sensations, more at that deeper level of self-awareness, it would more be a place memory would pop into my mind of where it happens as opposed to what happens, because I've kind of released, it happens as the release happens. So I've lived all over the world. So I'd get a memory, oh, that was Hong Kong, or oh, that was England, or just these different places I'd lived. And it would just pop into my mind and then go poof. It wouldn't stay in my mind. So it's part of that release. It's stored somewhere. I now know it's the connective tissue just because I've got deeper inside still. It's stored as tension or with tension in our connective tissue. And when we release that tension, the memory, the emotion releases too.
So fast forward now to today, where can transform this physical transformation that's happening as you are doing this. Where's the link to that? And yeah, just let's start with that.
Okay. Well, I was doing this work laying on the sofa, and one day I realized that I could keep my awareness inside my body after the tension had released. So imagine you have a toothache or a stomach ache, right? You can tell where the pain's coming from. You can feel where it's coming from. But once the pain has gone, right, the toothache is gone, stomach ache's gone, you can't get your awareness back inside. You can't feel where it came from again because there's nothing calling your attention to it. I realized I could put my awareness inside my body and keep it there. Now, to begin with, it was just for a moment, right? As soon as I thought a thought, my awareness came back out. So then I would try again. Okay, can I sense again? Just feel inside again. And I could. And over time, I just get better and better at doing it. And I would move my awareness around and focus on a place with tension. And I would do the same thing. I would hold my awareness on it and just allow it to be. Not try and change it, just give it the attention it needs, and it would start to release. And one day, months into this, when I was able to put my awareness inside my head, I actually felt something release. I heard it with my ears because I'm now in my head, which is close to my ears, and I felt it, and it sounded and felt like old fabric ripping. It was kind of scary, actually, to be the first time. I didn't know what I was doing, but I realized it's an adhesion in the connective tissue, releasing, letting go. So I just kept doing it once I realized that's what it was, that it was a good thing, not a bad thing. And eventually it got to the place I could actually feel my skull bones relax. And I hadn't known they weren't relaxed, right? Just with the thoughts of my dad, I hadn't realized they were his until they'd gone. I didn't realize my skull bones were not relaxed until they relaxed. And so I've just kept doing that. And, I'm relaxing incredibly deep tissue tension and inside my bones, inside the tissues, inside my jaw and my neck. And my neck will move in all sorts of ways that it never used to because it was so tight. So there's really deep, I think this is really deep healing. It's releasing the I don't know, the memories, the pre-verbal memories maybe that are inside, because it's just unbelievable how much tension we store inside of us that we're just not aware of. It's stuck in our subconscious mind, in our body, and we have no idea it's there. It's crazy.
So I've heard people speak about the fascia, and is that part of the connective tissue? Am I correct?
Yes, it's pretty much one and the same thing. And it's, yes,
Okay.
so it's throughout our body and inside the bones, around the bones, inside the organs, around the organs. It's all connective. It's connected because, when I was born with my right foot up against my right shin. And the first 6 weeks of my life, that was released. But it didn't release the rest of it. It just released the foot. And when I became able to put my awareness inside my head, the pain in my left cheek was almost unbearable. It was so intense. I could only focus on it for a second at a time. And it was connected all the way down to my right foot through the connective tissue. And I hadn't realized the pain was there. For 50 years, I did not realize that pain was there. But it was incredibly intense and it was stuck in my subconscious.
It's so fascinating. So people talk about like releasing the fascia, and you can do exercises and massages and things like that to release the fascia. Is that a way of doing the external work to do what you do internally? Like, is
Yeah,
it a
that's a great question.
bypass it by doing that? I don't know.
It is a great question, and I wondered about that myself. I have a fascia blaster, and I have a block that people use for releasing fascia. I do think it helps, right? I've heard from people that have done the work, and it definitely helps, but it doesn't get to that deep work, right? My path has been led by my body, so I will focus inside, notice where the pain or tension is, and I would focus on that. And I might focus on this pain in my left cheek and something in my right neck will release, right? So my body knows how to do the work. It directs me with the pain or the tension, the body sensations. Whereas if you're doing one of those external methods, you're not being led by the body so much, you're being led by the mind. Yeah, but it can help.
So how can people do this? Because you go into your body. So do you teach people how to access their own bodies, or can you access other people's bodies?
That's a great question too. I do have a friend who says that she can feel my awareness inside her body. She's the one I play with. I try, we try and do different things. So, but that is a good question. Yes, I do teach people how to do it, but this is a deep level of awareness that I don't think someone can jump to, right? It has to be done through the shallower levels, right? Through the EFT, through working through memories and traumas, because that's like the armor. I listened to one of your other podcasts and she talked about us wearing armor. And then that's very true. It's like the armor that prevents us getting inside. So we have to release or dissolve that armor first before we can get inside to do this really deep work. So yes, I actually have a free blueprint to profound inner peace on my website that anyone can go and download, and it goes through the steps to get to this deeper level.
And what, like, now that you can go into your body and you've released so much, and you have done so much deep work. I mean, there's very few people, I think, on this planet that have done as much deep work as you to really clear themselves out emotionally and physically. Do you find that there's still things to work on?
Totally. You just become aware at a deeper level, right? So I'm aware of tension. I'm working through tension. I believe my face is totally non-symmetrical. Now it's more symmetrical than it was because I've released a lot of the bones already. But I believe I'm going to become symmetrical, right? Once I've released all the tension in there. And I know I've got a long way to go yet. Right? I can see it, but I can feel it. So I'm releasing tension in my palate and in my atlas and axis bones at the top of my neck. So I'm kind of deeper inside than I was before. And you just become aware of the next level. So, from that point of view, it can sound like not much of a fun journey, but it is, because as you go, it, actually feels really good to release really old tension. But we also become lighter, right? We understand life more We've let go of those burdens, right? I've grown 3/4 of an inch because I have let go of those burdens. So, physically, I'm taller than I have ever been in my life, which is crazy. I didn't know that was possible. But also, I can laugh more easily, right? Life is just more fun because I'm not as tense as I was. I'm peaceful. I used to, I used to react all the time, right? I used to always try and find the place where I was safe. And I'm not like that anymore.
So, would you recommend someone doing this as young as possible? Like learning
Yes.
this? Okay.
Yes. But, we have to want to do it. And we often don't at those young age. We don't think we need to. Yeah.
I mean, it's so fascinating to me how I do believe that healing or, growth is a spiral and it is a continuous thing. Like we are ever evolving as beings. And even if you have healed something, it might like come up in a different way because you're a new person. Work through that, or you've worked through something adjacent to it, and then you're able to get to another layer. Do you find that is happening with you too?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's often different aspects or deeper wounds. So here in the US, we have someone who's messing with our political system, and he reminds me of my dad and my brother. That kind of the combination of those two. So what I experience with what's happening are wounds that I believe I got imprinted with from my brother and my dad. So those wounds are very deep, and I have to work with them at a very deep level to release them. But I've done it before, just not on this really deep level. So you're right, it's a spiral, and we come back to the same things often, just with a different aspect of it that we haven't yet worked through. It doesn't mean that what we didn't work. It just means that we're coming through a different aspect of it, and we need to look at it with this new feeling, right? Because there are a lot of feelings or emotions that are very similar. Once you can sense inside, to different emotions, you can try sensing inside to two different things. I know my mind's not going to come up with them right away, but there are emotions that feel very similar inside. So maybe you have to work through one, and then that one's worked through, then you have to work through another one that's very similar.
And is it only negative emotions that create tension, or are there positive emotions too?
In my experience, it's only the negative that's stored in the body with tension. The positive are just, I can't find them inside, but I can find the negative ones with the tension. And that's another reason EFT is so good and so powerful, because it's working on the negative. It's working to release that energy that's stored in the body. Even if you use EFT for positive, like for affirmations and such things, it's still releasing the tension you have or the resistance you have to that positive affirmation. It's always working on the negative.
I didn't know that about EFT actually, that it works or only on the negative. That's very interesting. So when you first went into your body and you realized that you could do this, what was that very first emotion where you said you started to like feel all like you heard the fabric tearing, and what was that first emotion that like completely like I want to say to me it sounds like it broke you open in
Right.
a
Well, the
really
first
good
time I
way.
didn't hear that tension, right? The
Yeah.
ripping came much later, but the first time
Okay.
I put my awareness inside my body, it was like, what was that? Because it felt so different, and I'd never heard of anyone talk about it before, which is why I ended up writing my book, because I feel like other people should know about this if it's possible. And yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I just knew it felt different. And yeah, it felt different. So imagine this is kind of gives you a little bit of a sense of what it's like. So imagine, well, actually tell me, what does your right knee feel like right now?
There, I can feel my pulse in it. There's tension pulling it maybe towards the right back. Like if I really focus in on it, I can actually feel a little bit of pain that I didn't feel before.
Great.
Yeah,
That's
there's
good
a tightness
awareness.
in there.
Yeah. Okay. So before you put words to it, you went inside your knee, and you sensed it. Yes?
Yes.
That's what I'm doing. I'm
Okay.
just doing that inside the body. rather than, which is really what you're doing too, right? You sensed
Yeah.
inside your knee. I can just keep my awareness inside there and move it around. So you're not doing anything with the mind, right? You're not putting words to anything. You're feeling, you're sensing. Yeah.
And how did you know that the tension was being released?
I could feel it.
It was just feeling different.
Yeah. You could feel a relaxation. My whole journey could basically be called a relaxation at a deeper and deeper and deeper level. Yeah, that's what I'm doing with the skull bones, right? I can feel tension. It's like, okay, I'm going to focus on it until it relaxes a little bit more. And then I'll find the next layer of tension. I'll focus on it until it relaxes a little bit more.
And are you just working through the body, or you, as something comes up, you've decided, like, I can feel there's some tension in my stomach, you're going to go and work into the stomach? Or is it like, now I'm going to work on myself, let's go into the body and see, let's go into my knee and then we work on that? Are you, or is your body directing you, or are the outside stimuli or triggers directing you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when you think back to what I did with EFT, right, I actually wrote down all my traumas and I went through one at a time. So I was doing focused work on specific things. And these days I do let my body lead me. So yes, if I have stomach pain, I will go and focus on my stomach. And often something will release. It's amazing how the neck is so connected to everything. I didn't realize this ahead of time, but whenever I release tension anywhere in the body, it also releases in the neck, which just kind of was interesting to me.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it's very connected. So these days I will let my body lead me, but I will also, if I'm watching the news or listening to the news, I will go inside and notice what I'm feeling and feel that as well. So yeah, it is, I guess it's more directed through the day rather than focusing on a particular place just because I want to. I will do that sometimes just out of interest.
So fascinating. And I could speak to you for hours on this. This is just absolutely incredible how possible. And I mean, actually, so do you feel healthier? Do you get less sick? Do you feel less physical ailments now that you are doing this work?
Yes, yes. I do believe it's reversing the aging process. I haven't seen much of that yet, right? Because my hair's still going gray, but it's releasing so much tension, right? Or dis-ease. It's releasing the dis-ease from inside the body. So I still have things that I'm working on, but I do think over time it will just, it's deeper and deeper healing. So yes, I do think.
And you're amazing. Is there anything that you want to share that I haven't asked you?
The first thing I always recommend people do is start asking themselves during the day how they feel. How am I feeling right now? How am I feeling right now? Just ask yourself that multiple times a day, because unless you're aware of how you're feeling, you can't do anything about it. So you have to kind of put that little separation in between you and the feelings. So just notice how you're feeling during the day.
I love that. I'm going to start doing that too. I have so many takeaways that I've like made a mental list here of the things that I'm going to do. Hearing you speak, tapping is something, or EFT is something that I do occasionally. And I'm like, oh, you know what? This is actually a good idea. I love the fact that you made that list and you work through all of those things. I'm like, I'm going to do that, to be proactive about stuff instead of waiting for it to come up. So
Right. Yes. There's definitely a way to do your own healing rather than waiting for it to come up. Yes, it's definitely a proactive way. Yes.
yeah.
And I'm actually I have EFT videos on my YouTube channel from really early on before I was very comfortable in front of a camera. So I'm just about to create a new one that hopefully will provide all the information on how to tap and the words to use and how the body provides feedback and all of that. So hopefully that will help people.
Amazing. Well, Anne, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing just so much information and your knowledge. And it is aspirational to be able to do what you do. So I so appreciate it.
Thank you. Can I also let people know about the retreat that's coming up?
Yes, absolutely. I forgot about the retreat. That's incredible. Please, please, please,
Yes.
please.
We are doing a 3-day virtual retreat in July of 2025. And it's going to be virtual. It's going to be over 3 days. And we're going to walk people through this releasing process of one particular loss, right? It can be a loss of anything, a pet, someone dying, or, a loss of democracy, whatever it is. We'll work through one loss over 3 days so that you can feel the relief at the end and feel the lightness and the clearing out inside of that space that this work provides.
Yes, I'm excited. I am going to look at the dates and hopefully I'm going to be able to sign up for that too. This is just incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all the great questions. It was really nice.
And we will put all the links in the show notes below. So, guys, if you're interested, please check out the show notes and connect with Anne on this with this incredible work. So, thank you.